Man, it feels so good to be talking in front of a mic again. Rewinding it back all the way back a full year ago when I talked about my most anticipated of the year in 2024, I vividly remember when taking a step back to really observe the landscape of our future Hollywood entertainment, and let me tell you, it was hard to say that I was filled with excitement or anticipation for what was to come. And what really came to mind was how fast Hollywood couldn't seemingly wait for 2025, therefore spawning the name of our tier list of the year, our 2024 Hollywood filler arc. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a true light bulb over the head situation like the ending of that Fantastic Four movie, the shitty one, and a chapter in Hollywood that, in my opinion, really lived up to her name to the very end, slowly but surely waiting to be forgotten in order for the audience to move on to greener pastures on the horizon. And because of that, this is going to be a more relaxed and, I guess you would say, not your conventional best and worst of 2024. What you're looking at right now is just the table of contents of the awards that I will be presenting today of my own personal opinions, and I need to really stress that. These are my own personal opinions and experiences within our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, from the glaze to the slander, the disappointing, and the surprising. It's all here, which is really just poetry at the end of the day, because it was honestly a roller coaster ride when I was looking back on our tier list. But this has already gone on way too long. This is a super long intro, and I don't want to waste too much time getting into this, seeing how I'm about, holy shit, a month late. That sounded actually way too familiar. But for the sake of you, the viewer, I'm pretty sure that I put the table of contents in order if you just want to skip around and see the winners and the nominees, because I all know that we have TikTok brains. Well, some of you don't anymore. By the way, in order for this video to not be like an hour long, these awards aren't nearly going to be as talkative as they could be. You can thank me later when you go down in the comment section and comment down your own opinions on our shared experience of our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, or even what your nominees would be for my slander awards in general. I'm just a bloke with an opinion, so I would like to hear yours too. Also, obviously, I have separate videos for all of these nominees and or winners or losers, but that's to be a given. With that, that is enough yapping. Let's go ahead and talk the best and worst of our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, starting with So as almost a completely character-driven consumer of my Hollywood entertainment, Arcane Season 2 really showcased to us, the audience, what a show could really achieve when it comes to the craft of character development, character growth, character depth, character relationships, and just how a studio could truly deliver the audience with multiple satisfying character arcs in general. And while Arcane Season 2 is just one of those shows that has so much to offer in terms of the carefully crafted and engaging narrative, beautiful animation from scene to scene with some of the most immersive action set pieces, a musical score that really sets the tone, and just the lore of the world of League of Legends in general, to me it's the characters of this universe that really bring together this cinema on a small screen over on Netflix, with my personal favorite character being Jinx. Of course, she just radiates aura, and then the Jace and Victor storyline. And while these particular stories are over on Netflix, I'm sure they are not done with this world, its universe, and their characters overall. And for that, I gotta say that I'm a little grateful. Don't worry, mates, this is not a case of recency bias. This is a channel of craft, grace, and integrity. And besides, I think I'm a little too far removed from seeing Nosferatu anyway for that to be the case. But in that same breath, leave it to the last piece of entertainment of the year for Hollywood to release one of the most immersive, haunting, and visually stunning movies of the year. Possible spoiler alert on that. I mean, it's really incredible. Leave it to Robert Eggers again to blast our eyes with another cinematic masterclass that just really lures us, the audience, into a visual trance that only he and so few other directors can achieve behind the camera. And while some could argue that Nosferatu could be his best work yet, the visual experience and careful attention to detail that was on display here with almost Each and every scene, from the practical effects work to the lighting and the direction overall, watching Nosferatu for the first time was nothing short of spectacular, and it was one of the best examples of an immersive visual storytelling that we saw in the game this year. And on a budget of only $50 million, it really only adds to be a resume builder for a director on the rise, and a cherry on top for us, the audience, on a chef's kiss of a movie. I'm pretty sure that I saw that he has werewolves on his mind next. Let's see him try to top this. Okay, so out of all of my awards, I would say that this is the award that is maybe the most controversial. And while I'm not somebody who genuinely hated or even disliked Netflix's live action adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender before a show that came out all the way back in March, I'm honestly not quite sure who even remembers this adaptation, who is talking about it, who the target demographic of the show was even for, who resonated with this adaptation in general, and how a studio could have such a high standard and iconic pop culture IP while simultaneously turning it into a piece of entertainment this forgettable. Mind you, this is coming from the same studio who preaches the accessibility of live action content and the umbrella audience that comes with that. With that theory successfully on full display when looking at the fan reception of Netflix's live action adaptation of One Piece, showcasing that it can be done. But even on that first watch through when it comes to the live action adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender, it felt and was relatively obvious around halfway through the story that these new creators and showrunners had missed the point, and the heart and soul of what made these characters, this world, and this concept so engaging and captivating in the first place was nowhere to be found. And while that's not to say that Season 2 can't attempt to sway the hearts and support of the longtime fans that Netflix so desperately needs, whether they want to admit that or not, especially when it comes to the Nielsen ratings and the audience retention. But I fear the dramatic gaps and cuts from the original source material and pacing issues overlaying from the first season are really going to hold this show back from achieving the heights of Netflix greats like Squid Game, Stranger Things, and to a lesser extent, One Piece. Our boy hasn't even waterbended yet. They're just doing nasty work over there to my goat. Okay, actually, well, forget what I just said about my most disappointing award. This definitely takes the cake for the most controversial opinion I will have for the entirety of our 2024 Hollywood filler arc. Don't dislike this video into oblivion, MCU fans. Let me cook. Deadpool and Wolverine was not only the exact kind of MCU movie that Marvel needed at the time, but the exact kind of big screen superhero movie that we, the audience, needed at that time. A classic case of Spider-Man No Way Home, where from my point of view, was going to be successful financially no matter what, but struggles in a sense of rewatchability, which in my opinion is the superhero genre's bread and butter. But now hear me out. Where I think Spider-Man No Way Home positively differs compared to the case of, say, Deadpool and Wolverine, because of the general landscape of the skyrocketing fan apathy and audience disinterest in the MCU plummeting towards the sunken place with each passing project, with a slight few exceptions here and there post-Endgame and with the conclusion of the Infinity Saga, an achievement that I believe to be the greatest cinematic achievement of all time. I'm not letting that go. Deadpool and Wolverine jumps ship and leans full-on nostalgia bait on the surface, with not much left for the audience to digest amongst even a second rewatch, except for some slightly engaging background noise while you fold laundry or type a YouTube script. But even then, I think you would just rather sit there in silence instead. Okay, so for those who weren't around for last year's awards, which is just most of you, the Butterfly Award represents the movie that I think will only grow and thrive with time compared to the reaction upon its first release. And while you might be thinking to yourself with that explanation, wouldn't the most politically correct name for this award be the Morbius Award? And yes, you would be correct if I could figure out if the general audience is trolling or not. I have genuine mates as in plural, where Morbius is one of their quote-unquote so bad it's good movies. What is life? But Disney's Mufasa, the prequel to their 2019 live action that's not really a live action Lion King, is a movie where you more than likely have already started to see the public opinion shift ever so slightly in the positive direction, which is funny because I didn't really see the hate for this movie to begin with. And with Disney having such big hits and sequels alike in our 2024 Hollywood filler arc like Inside Out 2, Moana 2, or the aforementioned Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm willing to state that Mufasa will inevitably be the movie that holds and grows its audience the most in the upcoming years, with the audience slowly but surely grasping onto its catchy songs and Disney's incredible work on listening to the audience on the problems from their first go around, and really putting some impressive animal emotions when it comes to the animation. And with the story, world, and most importantly, musical beats as ingratiated into our hearts and culture as The Lion King is, I don't think this is such a far-fetched winner for this award. Man, this is interesting because I feel like I really shouldn't have to explain the name of this award too much. Rather you've seen the memes or seen the anime itself, you know the story of the character of Vegeta, a man that could, but can't. The tragic tale of not being the main character. Where there is a winner, there must also be a loser. A saying as old as time. And when it comes to Wicked Part 1 and Joker 2, I can't say those French words respectively, I would like to say that maybe in a different year, or perhaps under different circumstances, these two movies could be the biggest winner or biggest loser of their respective categories of the best and worst on the big screen. Wicked Part 1 was a genuine shock for me, seeing how I have never seen The Wizard of Oz, let alone gone to a Broadway show of the IP itself, but I was truly engaged from the very first musical number on just how grand everything was, and Joker 2 was just as shit on a screen as the name itself. Unpredictable shit on a screen, but shit on a screen all the same. And if I cared more about that first movie, I'm sure it could have easily just plopped itself comfortably into the Slander Award itself. But that is not the case. Wow, it's actually funny looking at these two nominees because they couldn't be further on the opposite end of the spectrum on almost every single aspect when it comes to the audience and their target demographic. But then here I am, and while surely it comes to no one's surprise that The Acolyte has received this year's Slander Award for the worst streaming show of our 2024 Hollywood filler arc, what The Acolyte was able to negatively achieve when it comes to the social impact of the Star Wars IP overall should demand nothing short of criminal charges. But the bigger issue, in my opinion, was how The Acolyte really highlighted the vast divisiveness of the fanbase overall and the lack of unity of the path and direction this IP should go down. And rather that's one fault of the side of the audience or the other, the fact of the matter is that even putting aside the heavy lifting The Acolyte has provided to the growing atomic bomb of fan apathy heading towards Disney Star Wars, The Acolyte still suffered from a genuine skill issue when it comes to the entertainment aspect overall. A show that somehow took 4 years in the making and still couldn't find the imagination, creativity, or time to craft a well-constructed narrative for their own fanfiction that required a runtime of a streaming show that I am being asked to genuinely take seriously. 30-minute episodes is nasty work for you to ask your audience to accept when your show is full of character conveniences, fast travel, and plot holes, just to name a few. And it's unfortunate because there is a timeline out there where this bastardization of the greatest and most important IP to ever grace this landscape itself didn't go down this way. It's unlucky. Let's go. Another year, another Slander Award. So I feel like the general consensus that I'm seeing for this award is between Madam Web, and I'm even seeing a lot for Borderlands, which I just thought was such a forgettable movie. But in that same breath, I didn't play those games, so my investment into that IP itself isn't all that deep. And as I mentioned before, because this is a channel of craft, grace, and integrity, pretty much making me an international hero, I went back and rewatched a couple scenes from Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2 just to make sure my biases against what I believe to be the biggest fraud and con man in the game right now in Hollywood wasn't working against me. Well, besides maybe J. Jimmy Abrams or Ryan Johnson. What a bunch of blokes. But nope, that was not the case. At all. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2 is the perfect embodiment of baking your cake and eating it too. Self-indulgent to a T and not really leaving much up in the realm of enjoyment when it comes to the majority of the audience that isn't up Zack Snyder's ass as much as he's up his own. And while sure there will always be aspects of Zack Snyder's work that his fans will enjoy, from my point of view, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2 commits the worst atrocity of them all when it comes to pure entertainment. It's simply boring. A non-inspiring grain simulator and edgy boy fanfiction of a sci-fi experience trying its best to masquerade as a movie was one of the most tedious and mind-numbing experiences I had throughout the entirety of the year of 2024, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Okay, first, I want to iterate how close of a call this award was. Easily the tightest race of the awards tonight, and man, did the nominees not disappoint. From grounded superhero projects that get back to form and the formula itself in terms of crafting a terrifying and unforgivable villain in the Penguin, to the aforementioned animated masterclass that Arcane Season 2 turned out to be. But what really made X-Men 97, Disney's newest reboot slash continuation of the original series, that show for me, is that it really captured the magic, that essence of what superheroes really bring to the landscape of entertainment that has been so desperately missing since the fall of the MCU. And with projects and series such as The Boys and Invincible having able to hold the genre afloat over the last, say, half decade, X-Men 97 was easily one of the most encapsulating experiences that I have had all year, somehow finding a way to craft and release some of the most incredibly animated fight sequences in the game this year, even including all of the Japanese anime that I've seen, and on a week by week basis, managed to capture that magic for not only newcomers such as myself who wasn't around or sentient enough for the original run, but delivered for that fandom side of the audience as well, finding the perfect balance between that double sided coin that could only be crafted by a team that genuinely cared about the audience's experience. And X-Men 97 really put that on notice with every single character, every single voice line, and every single visual shot that entered my eyeballs. And in my opinion, X-Men 97 has been the best project to come out of Marvel post Endgame. I know, crazy. So in the most obvious award of the day, Dune 2 was absolute cinema. And I'm not so much of a bloke like the quote-unquote real Hollywood awards voters that forget about the grip and the aura that this movie and the character of Paul Atreides had on the world and social media earlier this year. The term Lisan El Gaib was an international meme, and personalities around the world were being shaped in the image of Paul Atreides. There are only a couple, and when I say a couple, I mean only around once or twice in the Hollywood year, that we, the audience, are blessed with pure and true IMAX experiences that deserve, demand, and deliver on such a promise. And Dune 2 is one of those films, a cinematic experience that is one of those films after a matter of time, without even thinking about it, you look back on and realize that you could only see that movie for the first time that one time. And you'll never get that same feeling, sensation, and immersiveness again amongst the rewatch. But it is that first watch through that really sticks with you, that musical score that I can only describe as mesmerizing, the visual camera work that I can only describe as masterful, and that character work and character development that I can only describe as incredible. Dune 2 is everything that cinema used to be, and what some directors, actors, writers, cinematographers, and everything that comes with the business of movie making represents and is trying to restore. And while the box office surely doesn't represent what I believe to be the best movie of 2024, I definitely don't think I'm in the minority. But there we go, a complete and utter look back at our 2024 Hollywood filler arc. Definitely leave your comments on either my Bloke Awards or your own awards or opinions in general. Reading them is genuinely funny sometimes, and I know that my yappin' ass brain has many, many hot takes. And there were just so many streaming shows and movies that just didn't even make the cut this year in terms of nominees or winners or losers. As you can tell, this is a growing award show, so you'll just have to stick with me when it comes to the production value. And please, MCU fans, the Deadpool and Wolverine hate isn't just hating for the sake of hating. Be real with me. Has anyone genuinely watched that movie more than twice? And more importantly, what should we call this year of Hollywood 2025? Comment down below. This easily has to be the longest time I have gone in between uploading videos since starting this channel, which is a double negative on my part personally when it comes to the timing of it all, because if you know me and you have been someone who is familiar with this channel, you already know how opinionated I am, and more importantly, how much I love to yap about those said opinions. So for this to happen at the end of the year was truly devastating to the content creator side of my brain. And while I could easily go on some long ass, boring ass soliloquy about the aspects of my life outside of YouTube, I mean, you see that subscriber count. I do this for the love of the game, baby, on a league minimum contract. Of course, as always, I want to thank you guys for watching the video, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I have no idea how long this video will actually end up being, or if I will even have an audience after this unfortunate hiatus. I feel like missing for a month on social media time is like I've been missing for 25 years. Yikes. Anyway, I'll leave a link to my Twitter and Letterboxd in the description just in case you want to go check that out. Again, I want to thank you all for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did enjoy, why not click on more while you're at it? Otherwise, that is all the words I got for you today. Bye.